After descending the mountain for training, my senior sister became an imperial consort. The senior brother who followed also became the nation's guardian general. When my turn came, I stubbornly chose seclusion instead. Our master was astonished, for I had been his most eager disciple yearning for worldly experience. In my past life after descending the mountain, I was betrayed and had my spiritual roots torn out. By remaining with the sect this lifetime, I became the master's sole true disciple and heir apparent. That day, imperial envoys arrived at our sect seeking the master's help to locate someone. Sect Master Wendian, might you help us find a woman named Ember? But he never knew. The scroll slipped from my grasp, scattering across the ground and stirring up a cloud of dust. The man I'd been avoiding for 15 years had somehow tracked me down. He was the love of my past life. Yet he carved up my spiritual core just to save his precious moonlight. But in this lifetime, I never descended the mountain to meet him. Lyra, come help the envoy look for it. My master had lost all his cultivation and spiritual power, so he could only call upon me. I forced composure and nodded in agreement. Can't the sect leader come himself, sending a disciple to brush me off? Kieran's question was just a facade. He was already seething with anger, having spent 5 years by his side. I knew his temperament all too well. This old man is indisposed and unable to perform the ritual. Your Excellency may place full confidence in my disciple. She has attained the divine transformation realm and is designated as the next sect master. The master respectfully explained, dispelling Kieran's displeasure. What shall we call this young lady? How old might she be? When did she join the heaven-questioning sect as a disciple? He inquired leisurely, his eyes narrowing slightly. Just like when we first met at the mountain's foot in my past life, I rescued him by the river, his body covered in blood. When he came to, he asked me the same questions, my name and age. To repay his life debt, he took me to the capital, and just like that, I spent 5 years with him without any proper recognition or status. Then came the day. He used medicine to temporarily drain my cultivation and extracted the fire spiritual root from my dual spiritual roots. He said, Ember, don't be afraid. I'll treat you well from now on. You still have one spiritual root left. Your cultivation won't be affected. He fell for the quack doctor's lies, convinced that my fire spiritual root could cure the bedridden princess of her chill. I begged him through tears. Losing a spiritual root would make my body explode and die. But he wouldn't believe me, only trusting the charlatan the princess had brought. Kieran left me without a second thought to attend to Princess Jasmine, leaving me to endure 5 excruciating days alone. 5 days later, he saw my deathly pale face and warned with displeasure, stop being stubborn, channel your spiritual energy to heal yourself now. Little did he know, I'd lost a spiritual root. My meridians were already overflowing with energy. The slightest use of spiritual power would make my body explode. Seeing my indifference, he mistook it for childish defiance and withdrew all tenderness, determined to teach me a lesson. As I pleaded desperately, he shook off my hand and walked away, until Jasmine got into trouble again. Did you tamper with the spiritual root? A murderous glint flickered in his eyes. I'd never seen him like this before, lying weakly on the bed with profound sorrow in his gaze. Kieran, after 5 years by your side, is this really how you see me? Instead of rekindling his affection, my words only earned me a knife at my throat. Then why did Jasmine develop a persistent fever after using your spiritual root? The sorcerer said you tampered with the spiritual root. I shook my head in denial. I didn't. Kieran, you have to believe me. He let out a cold snort. I trusted you before, but now you've betrayed that trust. I stood frozen in panic as his icy demeanor suffocated me, while I was desperately trying to prove my innocence. He stabbed at me again. The sorcerer said only by extracting this last spiritual root from you could Jasmine's fever break. This is your debt to her. As the final spiritual root left my body, I felt my life force draining away. Then came the endless, soul-rending agony, yet somehow, the heartache cut deeper. Through the crack in the door, I saw Jasmine flashing me a smug grin where Kieran couldn't see. I wanted to tell Kieran, but the pain had stolen my voice. I was locked in the room, stripped of all freedom. They brought me medicine every day, but no remedy could save me now. But after that day, I never saw Kieran again, until his guards came to deliver medicine once more. When I told them I was pregnant, I'd hoped for Kieran's mercy, but all I received was a bowl of abortifacient. His guards delivered the message in his stead. He said, there will be other children, but if anything happens to Jasmine, the queen will have the entire Kieran family buried with her. In despair, I was forced to drink the abortifacient, blood pooling on the ground around me. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself reborn to the time before my mountain descent training. From that moment on, I resolved to stay with the sect and keep my distance from Kieran. So when my master told me, Lyra, it's your turn next month to descend the mountain for training, I shook my head like a rattle drum. No way. The mortal world's too complicated. The master pressed further. Weren't you the most eager to descend the mountain for your trials? How else would you find your birth mother if you don't go down? Birth mother, why bother searching when you've already been abandoned? I won't go. I'll stay at the sect for secluded cultivation, though I don't know why I was reborn. Being able to stay peacefully at the sect is enough for now, but I never expected that even without provoking Kieran myself, he actually sought me out himself. Just as I was pondering why Kieran had memories from a past life, my master's voice snapped me out of my reverie. "To Lyra, the envoy is speaking to you." I lowered my gaze and answered Chuanjo in a hushed voice. "My name is Lyra. I'm 18 now, raised in the sect since childhood and never left." I took a deep breath and lifted my head to meet his piercing gaze. Kieran narrowed his eyes slightly and nodded thoughtfully. "Then I'll trouble Miss Lyra to find someone for me." I acknowledged with a nod and began rummaging through the dimensional pouch for spellcasting components, but the moment my hand entered the pouch, Kieran abruptly grabbed my wrist. He stared at the dimensional pouch and asked, "Where did you get that spatial pouch?" "The pouch bears my unique peony seal, imprinted with my spiritual consciousness." "I forgot, when I was Ember, I used the same dimensional bag. It was a prize from the recent sect tournament." I tossed out a white lie, met Kieran's probing gaze with calm composure. After a moment, he released his grip. I went back to rummaging for props. Suddenly, a sword's intent surged from behind. Instinctively, I conjured a wooden barrier with my sylvan energy to block it. Then I froze him solid with my glacial energy. I demanded, "What is the meaning of this, Your Excellency?" He didn't answer me, only muttering to himself, "Ember possesses fire and earth spiritual roots, while you have wood and ice spiritual roots. You're not her." Considering his status as an imperial envoy, I had no choice but to release the ice binding his feet. He staggered back several steps, his fierce aura completely dissipated. Though I don't understand why he retains memories from past lives, I only wish to sever all ties in this lifetime. Kieran's memory was correct. In my past life as Ember, I did possess both fire and earth spiritual roots. But what he didn't know was that I actually had mixed spiritual roots. Back then, only my fire and earth roots had developed, the others hadn't fully manifested yet. Little did I know, this became his way of testing me. I gathered the ritual tools, arranged the magic circle, and channeled my spiritual energy. Minutes ticked by, yet the formation revealed no trace of the person Kieran sought. I gave him a look that said, "See for yourself. As you can see, there's no such person in this world. The Ember you're looking for doesn't exist." Veins bulging on his forehead, Kieran shattered my formation with a single kick. "Impossible, she's my fiancée. We've been together for 5 years. How could she not exist?" I looked up at him and asked, "If she served as the envoy's companion for 5 years, when did she leave? Did she leave any letters? Do you have any of her belongings?" Kieran was at a loss for words. A smirk played on my lips as I crouched to store the props in my spatial pouch. Feeling considerably lighter, "Young Master, the Grand Princess has arrived at the Heavenly Inquiry Sect." Hearing that, Kieran hurried away. I watched his retreating figure until he was out of sight. The moment Jasmine's name is mentioned, he drops everything and rushes to her without hesitation. Clenching my fists, that fleeting satisfaction was quickly replaced by seething resentment. I crushed the farewell gift he left behind. "Kieran, you walked right into this yourself. Don't blame me for playing rough. What did you just call me? How do you know that name?" Kieran suddenly appeared in the doorway. Kieran slowly stepped back into the hall, one deliberate pace at a time. "I never told you my name. How could a maiden who's never left these mountains know what to call me? The moment you saw me, you were so flustered you could barely hold your scrolls steady. Speak, who are you really?" His paranoia made him sense something amiss from a mere form of address. 3. My master concealed my true age, while I used my spiritual roots to evade his probing. To my surprise, he doubled back and nearly exposed me. Kieran lashed out at me with brutal ferocity. My seething hatred, born from the agony of dying in despair and being reduced to ashes in my past life, transformed into boundless wrath. Channeling my wood spirit root, I conjured vicious vines that whipped toward him with frenzied strikes. He stood no chance against me, but he didn't come alone. Our master and the outer sect disciples still at Chi refining stage were taken hostage by him. Kieran's using them as leverage against me. "Lyra, run. Don't worry about us." The moment my master finished shouting, Kieran kicked him to the ground, blood trickling from his mouth. I froze in my tracks, my vision turning red with rage. "Kieran, I surrender. Just let my master go." Kieran planted his foot on my master's chest, and I could hear the sickening crunch of bones under pressure. "Kieran, what the hell do you want?" I recognized the men he brought were well-trained Imperial guards. His mountain visit was clearly official business. "You master and disciple have quite the nerve. We'll discuss how you learned my name later. No, I'll ask your master, where's the fugitive you're hiding? Is it her?" Kieran pointed at me, confused. I yelled at him to let go of my master. "Was it you who rescued that cursed star during the sacrificial rite and hid her away all those years ago?" Ignoring me, Kieran kept beating my master while gripping his collar and interrogating him. I've just fought hundreds of Imperial guards and completely drained my spiritual energy. I shook my head. The elixir needs another quarter hour to restore my power, but Master can't endure the torture any longer. Ignoring Master's warnings, I unleashed my killing intent against Kieran, seizing the moment when he fell. I rescued my master. He stared ominously at the crimson mark on my forehead and declared with certainty, "It is you." I froze. Had he recognized me as Ember? But he ignored me and continued, 20 years ago, the celestial diviner prophesied that the royal family would bear two destined children, one blessed with the phoenix's fortune, the other cursed as the celestial scourge. The celestial scourge would bring ruin to the Great Een dynasty, while the phoenix's fortune alone could preserve its stability. To safeguard Great Een, the celestial scourge must be offered in sacrifice, even in the capital. I'd heard the rumors. Jasmine was the royal family's prophesied phoenix, hence her pampered upbringing. Jasmine has feelings for Kieran. He promised to marry me, yet he never pushed her away. I figured it had something to do with the prophecy back then, but I never imagined I'd be involved too. Faced with Kieran's questioning, the master remained silent, absently rolling prayer beads between his fingers. The sect master of Wutin shouldn't have been involved, yet 20 years ago during the Omen Star sacrifice, he secretly saved her. That crimson mark on her forehead is the mark of the Omen Star. I was bewildered. Was she talking about me? My master said calmly, "My apprentice is but 18, entrusted to me by a woman who died in childbirth at the foot of the mountain. She has no ties to the royal family." Kieran didn't buy a word of the master's explanation. He ordered his master to be tortured mercilessly, dead or alive. My spiritual energy and dark aura haven't recovered yet. Barehanded, I'm no match for the crowd. The embroidered uniform guards pinned me down, seizing my weakened state. Kieran ordered his men to brutally break my limbs. Watching my master hanging by a thread, I pleaded with him through tears, "Kieran, don't kill my master, take me back instead to fulfill your mission. I'll give you anything, my fire and with spiritual roots. Even my life if you want it." Hearing this, Kieran immediately ceased torturing my master. Then he shoved aside the two Imperial guards pinning me down, cradling me gently in his arms. He fed me a restorative elixir. His voice trembled with both anguish and joy. "Ember, is it really you?" I coughed up blood, my breathing faint as a whisper. "Spare my master." After a moment's hesitation, Kieran ordered his men to release the master and other disciples. "Ember, I've finally found you. You recognized me long ago. Why didn't you reveal yourself? Are you still mad at me?" Kieran held me like a precious treasure, refusing to let go, but bound by duty, he had to take me back to the capital and deliver me to the Empress. After my repeated pleas, he finally allowed me to bid farewell to my master, supported by an outer disciple. My master stubbornly grasped my sleeve. "Don't go to the capital," he pleaded. I had no desire to go either, yet the capital held answers to too many secrets. After settling sect affairs and arranging care for my master, I departed with leaden steps. By the carriage, Jasmine clung to Kieran's side, her face alight with excitement. This scene nearly made me lose track of what year it was. "Ember, the carriage is ready with your favorite pastries inside. Go ahead and rest now." Kieran hurried over, took my luggage, and gently guided me toward the carriage. After taking the medicinal pill, most of my injuries had healed and I was out of danger, yet he still took great care of me with utmost gentleness. Jasmine followed, tilting her head with a coquettish tone, her eyes flashing hostility. "Brother Kieran, is this woman the one Mother Queen seeks? Why are you being so kind to her?" She had no memories of past lives, no recollection of who I was, yet that didn't stop her from disliking me. The memory of her ordering Kieran to gouge out my spiritual roots came flooding back, and I could barely contain the surge of hatred. The moment I stirred, Kieran silently pinned my hand and effortlessly lifted me into the carriage. "Jasmine, take the other carriage." Jasmine stamped her foot defiantly, refusing to leave as she made to board after us. Jasmine was originally infatuated with the Grand Tutor's son. They nearly married by imperial decree, until his affection strayed, forcing her to refocus her attentions on Kieran. She once flaunted Kieran's jewelry gifts at my bedside, claiming she'd have married into the Kieran family long ago if not for me, yet now it seems even without me, she never became Kieran's bride. Suddenly, I shot her a taunting smirk. Her eyes blazed with fury. "What do you mean by that? Looking to die?" Kieran's expression turned icy as he gestured, prompting someone to escort Jasmine away. Feeling thoroughly bored, I retreated back into the carriage. I dozed off during the journey, and unbidden memories of the past surfaced in my mind. Already drained of my spiritual roots and cultivation, the abortion potion left me hovering at death's door. Perhaps death would be kinder. This mortal world is too cruel. If there's an afterlife, I swear never to know Kieran again, nor set foot in the capital. I watched helplessly as his personal guard set my chamber ablaze. Not a soul in the vast Duke's manor came to douse the flames, clear proof this was done by design. In my final fading moments, my consciousness burned with hatred for Kieran and the bitter resentment of dying like this. To my surprise, my consciousness flickered back to clarity one last time. Suddenly, it all came rushing back to me. My spirit drifted through the halls of the Skyward Sect. Overhearing my master and fellow disciples in conversation, my master exhausted his cultivation to bring me back to life. My senior brothers and sisters weren't planning to descend the mountain until our master sacrificed 10 years of his lifespan in divination to change their minds. Those who vowed to stay above worldly affairs stepped into the mortal realm for my sake. Tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. They kept all this from me, just so I could live peacefully within the sect. Yet fate had other plans. Kieran still managed to find me. I failed my master's sacrifices. Lost in dreams I refused to wake from. Brother Kieran, push her away now. Your hand will be ruined if this continues. The noisy sounds are really annoying. I opened my eyes and felt something wrong in my mouth, only to realize I'd been biting Kieran's hand. It was already covered in blood. Kieran shooed away the chattering Jasmine, then held me close and kissed my cheek. Ember, thank goodness you're awake. I was so scared you'd just sleep forever. The physician said you've given up the will to live, that you no longer care for this world. No, I still have reasons to live. I still have my master, senior sister, senior brother, and the entire Wutian sect, and vengeance yet to be claimed. I won't let everyone's sacrifices be in vain. Ember, what happened in our past life was all a misunderstanding. Taking your spiritual route was my last resort. I could afford to be selfish. But the Kieran family couldn't. Jasmine is the queen's daughter. Locking you away was also meant to protect you. Rest assured, I promise this time I'll keep you safe. I'll marry you as vowed in our past life. This lifetime, my word is my bond. I gazed into his tender eyes and let out a mocking laugh. You know I'm the celestial loner star, yet you dare marry me. The Kieran family isn't afraid of the Empress anymore. Kieran's true purpose in coming to the Ask Heaven sect was to find the ominous star taken by his master, with finding his ember being secondary. Had I not revealed the mark on my forehead, he might never have found me. Kieran hesitated for a moment before gently stroking my back. The queen wishes to see you, but not with ill intent, otherwise she'd have ordered your immediate execution at Wentian sect. If you marry me, what about Jasmine? I tilted my head to look at him. My question made him overjoyed. He took it as proof I still cared. He sighed helplessly. Jasmine may be a bit spoiled, but she's not inherently bad. She just mistook sibling affection for romantic feelings. I scoffed. Wasn't she your white moonlight? He froze, then shook his head. You've always been my true white moonlight. I only treated her kindly because she's the crown princess, so please don't make things difficult for her. I promise I'll never hurt you for her sake again. I scoffed in disdain, turning away and shutting my eyes to ignore Kieran's arrogant remarks. Kieran mistook my silence for agreement, treating me with the same tenderness as during our closest moments in past lives. Jasmine tried stealing Kieran away by feigning illness, but after failing repeatedly, her tricks stopped working. She had no choice but to change tactics. Kieran and I were having tea in the pavilion when she came rushing over eagerly to apologize. Sister Ember, Jasmine was wrong before. Jasmine begs your forgiveness. Jasmine is willing to live in harmony with Sister Ember, and perhaps even share a husband in the future. If it comes to that, she was being extremely deferential, gazed at Kieran with the most innocent doe eyes. Kieran bought it, hook, line and sinker, for nothing kills like helpless laughter. That single sentence earned Jasmine Kieran's complete trust. Putting his mind at ease about us spending time together, Jasmine's smile vanished the moment Kieran walked away. She glared at me with gritted teeth. Don't get cocky, Ember. Once we reach the capital, I'll tell Mother everything. Then you're dead. Kieran will belong to me alone. I watched her performance indifferently, not uttering a word. After years of rivalry, I know her schemes all too well. That day, Jasmine locked herself in the room and had someone set a fire. When the guards came to extinguish it, she screamed, Sister Ember, don't kill me. I'll give up Brother Kieran for you. A stupid plan, but Kieran would buy it. The fire was small, so I threw on more fuel and pinned her in the flames, making her genuinely struggle and scream for help. As the fire grew wilder and we both faced being consumed by the inferno, Jasmine finally broke down and begged for mercy. Ember, let me go. I was wrong. Please, let's just get out of here. The spoiled Jasmine knelt on the ground in disgrace, begging me through tears. The guards outside kept calling her name, but the flames were too intense for them to break through. Kieran arrived, shouting my name and insisting on entering despite all warnings. Jasmine pleaded with Kieran for help, but he gave her no response whatsoever. She fought desperately against my grip, but stood no chance against me. Ember, if you want to die, go ahead, but I'm not ready to die yet, at the last moment. I carried the unconscious Jasmine through the sea of flames. Before the eyes of all witnesses, I became Princess Jasmine's savior. I collapsed into Kieran's arms. Kieran, I thought I was going to burn to death again. The pain was unbearable. This is the second time Jasmine's tried to burn me alive. I can't accept this. With those words, I blacked out, giving Kieran ample time to think. The next morning, Jasmine woke up and immediately sought out Kieran, throwing herself into his arms in front of everyone, a delicate, coquettish display of affection. Big brother Kieran, does Sister Ember dislike me? Those flames hurt so much. Not that I'm accusing Sister Ember of meaning to harm me, it just makes me sad. I really do like her. I sat in the corner of the room, watching quietly. Kieran pushed her away coldly, offering no comfort as he callously had her escorted out to rest. After it was done, Kieran came to me seeking praise. Ember, you're the only one I trust. The corners of my lips curled into a faint smile. After arriving in the capital, Kieran wanted me to stay, but couldn't defy the Empress's decree. I wasn't surprised. Kieran might have feelings for me, but when power comes into play, I'm always the one to be sacrificed. I accepted it calmly, rising to follow the envoy's departure. Kieran suddenly stepped in front of me. She is my fiancée, the future matriarch of the Kieran family. I hope you'll show her every courtesy in consideration of our family's standing. He turned and solemnly slipped the Kieran family bracelet onto my wrist, the symbol of status. In my past life, I saved him and stayed by his side for 5 years, yet never received this bracelet despite all my hints and overtures. Kieran dismissed the others. Those are my rules for entering the palace. I'll arrive a day after you. Don't act rashly. Wait for me to enter the palace. All right, fiddling with my bracelet. I asked him, you claim the guards who set the fire weren't yours, then he certainly didn't tell you I was 3 months pregnant when you imprisoned me. That abortion pill couldn't have been your doing that night. Kieran, who could the killer be? Kieran's eyes went blank as he collapsed into complete mental breakdown. The baby, his lips denied it, but his heart knew the truth. Only one person in the Duke's household could murder me behind his back. I opened the door and walked away without looking back. After 2 lifetimes, I finally laid eyes on the Empress again, my biological mother. No one ever told me how much I resemble her. I'm more her daughter than Jasmine is. You knew all along. Her voice was icy. I watched her in silence. Before her anger erupted, a palace attendant announced visitors, my senior martial siblings. Perfect timing, let it be. I was outright thrown out. My senior sister stood at the stone steps below. I rushed into her arms. Upon counting, a full decade had passed since we last met. I leaned heavily on her shoulder, weeping from the palace halls all the way beyond its gates. She comforted me gently, murmuring, "Don't be afraid," over and over. 2 simple words put my heart at ease. Our senior brother is waiting outside with us. They say he's now the nation's top general, yet here he is driving our carriage. When I asked about our senior sister, she remained silent, simply escorting me out of the palace to comfortable lodgings. Kieran rushed back to the palace just half a day late to report his journey to the Empress. He wanted to see me, but my senior brother stopped him outside my residence. My senior brothers and sisters said everything would be settled at the Empress's birthday banquet. By perfect timing, I only stayed in the capital for 3 days before the birthday banquet arrived. I was summoned to the banquet by unnamed authority. My senior sister refused to reveal who issued the command. The Queen's birthday banquet was a grand affair, with the Emperor himself presiding and all court officials offering congratulations. Jasmine, who had been nestling beside the Queen, sprang to her feet the moment she spotted me. "Mother, this is the woman brother Kieran brought back from the heaven-questioning sect, the child supposedly taken from the sacrificial rites by their former sect leader. She's vicious at heart, consumed by jealousy over my closeness with brother Kieran. She schemed against me relentlessly throughout the journey, even attempting to burn me alive. Thankfully, my phoenix destiny protected me from calamity. Otherwise, Mother Queen would have lost her daughter forever." The high-ranking ministers were privy to the celestial prophecy made by the diviner years ago. They exchanged knowing glances before lowering their heads in feigned ignorance. The bewildered officials exchanged confused looks. The Queen gazed at Jasmine with doting affection. "How would you like to handle this, my dear? Your father dotes on you most. If you plead with him, he'll surely grant your wish." Hearing this, Jasmine turned to the Emperor and repeated the plea through tearful sobs, demanding my immediate execution. The Emperor frowned slightly and summoned me forward. Jasmine smirked triumphantly, mouthing the words, "You're dead." The Emperor appeared gentle in demeanor, yet his gaze was the most piercing. "You wish to kill Jasmine?" the Emperor asked me. Kieran rushed forward, forcing me to kneel and pressing my head down to prevent me from looking up. "Your Majesty, it's all a misunderstanding. Ember saved Princess Jasmine that day. The royal guards can vouch for this." The Emperor dispatched investigators. Jasmine pouted, Father doesn't believe me, your daughter would never lie. Have you forgotten who I am? The Emperor smiled cryptically. Oh, and who might that be? Jasmine froze, about to declare herself the dynasty's lucky star, but swallowed her words under the Emperor's piercing gaze. She turned to the Queen for help, who slowly shifted her gaze to Kiran. She insulted a royal princess. There must be consequences. What say you, Kiran? Kiran nodded repeatedly. I shall take the punishment in my fiancé's stead. A crowd putting on an affected performance. I couldn't bear to watch, forcing my head up as I shoved Kiran away. What business is it of his? At that moment, the senior disciple stepped forward and declared, I know Lyra's true identity. She is the firstborn princess of Her Majesty the Queen, the rightful heir to the title of eldest princess. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Jasmine slammed the table and rose to her feet, pointing accusingly as she shouted, Impossible, the Queen Mother has no daughter but me. The Queen carried her child for 10 months without concealment. Every minister present knew of the eldest princess's existence, yet none dared inquire about the princess's whereabouts. They simply obeyed the Queen's decree, addressing her as Crown Princess Jasmine. My senior brother's words were no baseless claim, he held concrete evidence. The evidence is irrefutable. The Emperor spoke first. Come here, child. Let your father have a look at you. Seeing his stance, the ministers followed suit in congratulating my return. The expressions of the Empress and Jasmine grew increasingly unpleasant. Jasmine snatched the sword from the guard and swung at me. The oracle decreed it's either you or me. We cannot coexist. I dodged effortlessly, but Kiran took the blow instead, leaving a gash from Jasmine's strike. Jasmine pointed at Kiran. Why defend her? You were meant to be my husband. You promised the Queen Mother, only by wedding me would the Kiran family secure eternal prosperity. 5. Like a madwoman, Jasmine blurted out a shocking truth in her unrestrained rage. The imperial harem shall not interfere in state affairs. Not only the Kiran family, but other noble houses have also struck deals with the Empress. The Empress shattered her cup and rose to her feet, chin held high. Is His Majesty's little performance meant for me? In an instant, chaos erupted throughout the hall. I was about to seize the moment and kill Jasmine, but my senior brother pulled me away. Go protect your senior sister. Standing by my senior sister's side for a while, I realized she was perfectly safe and understood my senior brother's thoughtful intentions. Taking advantage of my senior sister's distraction, I charged back into the chaotic fray. The Empress grew too ambitious, overstepping her bounds until the Emperor's displeasure culminated in today's scheme using me as pretext. It was none other than the Emperor who demanded my presence at the birthday banquet. The rivalry between both factions remains deadlocked. Kiran being the Empress's lackey comes as no surprise. I slit my palm and drew the ritual array with my blood as the medium. The silvery moonlight was swallowed by dark clouds as a sudden gale extinguished all candles in the hall. Darkness enveloped the chamber, and the fighting ceased as if by unspoken agreement. Behind me, the spectral form of a gigantic peony gradually materialized, wreathed in towering flames. The firelight illuminated every face, revealing me casting spells from above. The Celestial Lone Star. It's the Celestial Lone Star. This is the signature magic of the Celestial Lone Star. I tilted my head toward the pitch-black night sky, sneering coldly, an eye for an eye, and none who wronged me shall escape retribution, while others see blurry figures. My lifelong training lets me discern every face with crystalline clarity. As the crowd stood stunned, a crimson peony's phantom transformed into a blade, hurtling straight toward Jasmine. The blade plunged straight into Jasmine's chest. Jasmine let out a blood-curdling scream. Help, mother, save me, she's trying to kill me. I stabbed again, not a killing blow, but the gushing blood would finish the job. Amid the raging flames, I slit open her abdomen and ripped out her dantian, avenging the agony of my spiritual roots being gouged out in our past life. Finally, I flung her dantian at the Empress's feet. We're both your daughters. Why was it so easy for you to abandon me? I'd already left the capital. Why couldn't you just let me go? Why must I die? Only later did I realize that Jasmine's torture methods at the Kiran mansion were all orchestrated by the Queen's seduction. Back then, I posed no threat to the dynasty, yet she still sought to kill me and reduce me to ashes. I smiled leisurely, my tone dripping with menace. Your turn now, Queen. I traced arcane sigils with my fingers, hurling a fire spell that grazed the Queen's flank. Though it appeared to miss, the strike wounded her nonetheless, and more crucially, tormented her psyche. You cursed star of calamity, you bring ruin upon this dynasty. You should have died long ago. My senior sister stepped forward. My junior is no harbinger of doom. The astrologer's prophecy never specified which child. The Queen retorted. Jasmine bears a golden mark on her forehead, while hers is blood red. Such an ominous sign can only mean she's a cursed loner destined for misfortune. The senior sister shielded the candle flame, staring steadily at the Queen as she enunciated each word. Your Majesty, have you heard of the fire phoenix? This crimson mark isn't the sign of a cursed loner, it's the mark of the fire phoenix. The true celestial lone star is the golden mark, gold is its disguise, or rather, its protective coloration. The senior sister pointed at Jasmine, lying in a pool of blood and barely clinging to life. So she is the real celestial lone star. Had you not provoked my junior sister into returning to the capital, this calamity would never have befallen the palace. Wake up, Empress, you were never destined to rule. The deranged queen lunged at my senior sister. Aiming to smash her mouth shut to silence her, I summoned a streak of fire and hurled it at the queen, stopping her in her tracks. She collapsed on the ground, reaching toward me with disbelieving eyes. You, how dare you? With light steps, I dragged Jasmine before the queen, graciously uniting mother and daughter to journey together to the underworld. Your Majesty, you'll never comprehend the calamity you've summoned. I never saw remorse cross her face before she drew her last breath. Jasmine refused to die without a fight, tears streaming as she pleaded, Sister, I beg you, sister, last time you called me sister, you wanted us to share a husband, pity I'm not interested. I stepped on Jasmine's wound to hasten her bleeding, helping her meet her end sooner. Just then, the clouds parted and the grand hall was bathed in light once more. The emperor stood on the dais, his gaze upon me inscrutable. Though he didn't strike the fatal blow, his hands are far from clean in my death. Turning to the queen's remaining loyalists, I saw them kneeling on the ground, trembling with fear. At the forefront knelt Kiran, his garments were stained with blood. I walked over and stopped before him, tilting his chin up. There was no fear in his eyes, only a relaxed smile. Ember, give me the knife, I'll handle this myself. No need to stain your hands. A dagger was kicked toward Kiran's feet. I turned around. It was my senior brother who kicked me. He pulled me away. Junior sister, know when to stop. Don't let hatred cloud your judgment. My voice choked with sobs. My enemies, there's more than one. Wiping tears from my face, he nodded gently. I know, we all do, but don't let our master's efforts go to waste. Master, as I regained consciousness, I let my senior brother tend to my wounds. Kiran survived. The emperor spared his life, but condemned him to a fate worse than death. He got what he deserved. My senior brother said Kiran wanted to see me one last time. I didn't meet him. All love and hatred faded away at the queen's birthday banquet. My senior brought me a letter from Kiran. I burned it without reading. I could guess its contents. His helplessness as a member of the Kiran family, his regret over losing my affection, how he never meant to destroy me. That day, I told Kiran about the child, dragging out his deepest regret. Otherwise, he'd still be serving the queen, entangled with Jasmine, dreaming of having his cake and eating it too. I returned to my residence in the capital to rest. My senior sister handed me a token before revealing the truth. The reason I could be reborn is that I'm the reincarnation of a phoenix, destined to rise from the ashes, but with my spiritual roots severed and meridians shattered. My master exhausted his cultivation to restore me, granting me this second life. She descended the mountain to become an imperial consort, foreseeing my fate and laying groundwork in the capital for my sake. Likewise, my senior brother became the grand marshal solely to stand as my unshakable support. A day later, the emperor summoned me to court. In my left hand I held the token from my senior sister, in my right the one from my master. Only the emperor and I remained in the grand hall. My investigation confirms your senior sister spoke the truth. The phoenix and the fiend stand revealed. You are both my daughter and the kingdom's lucky star. The future prosperity of our dynasty now rests upon your shoulders. I let out a soft, mocking laugh. True prosperity stems from the ruler's governance. I've ordered the preparation of your princess manor. You may move in immediately. Simply request anything lacking in your household. The implication was clear. They intended to detain me in the capital, but I refused. My master had already passed the sect leadership to me before I descended the mountain. Staying here was out of the question. I spoke my mind plainly. The emperor slammed the table violently. Guards flooded into the hall. This ambush had been carefully prepared. What does your majesty mean by this, seeking to coerce me with force? The emperor exuded the domineering aura of one who holds supreme power, with careless indifference. Set your mind at ease. We mean you no harm, but you are vital to the realm's stability, and departure is out of the question. An inevitable conflict. 6. With blood as the catalyst and my token as the focus, I trapped them all within the formation. I strode toward the emperor with my blade drawn. When the tables turned and he became the prey, even he knew fear and begged for mercy. He aged a decade in an instant, trembling like a withered old man as he pleaded for his life. Razor blade. I remembered the words my master left me. Lyra, in this second life, don't let hatred consume you entirely. There's still beauty in this world. Go see more of it. I closed my eyes. Outside the capital, a carriage bearing the imperial crest, the emperor himself led his ministers to bid farewell. The look in his eyes no longer held the contempt of someone crushing an ant. He trembled with fear and awe. Our senior brother personally drove the carriage, taking me and our senior sister toward the direction of the sky-questioning sect. I deceived the emperor, weaving for him a magnificent dream. I claimed that even after leaving the capital, I could ensure the royal family's prosperity. Little does he know, the phoenix that rose from ashes no longer bears the destiny of royalty. His empire shall crumble before long. But what's that to me? Henceforth, this mortal world and I shall be strangers. The end. Story 2. The extreme cold apocalypse has arrived. My best friend wants to become a saint and save everyone. In my past life, not only did she give away our family's food and water for free to outsiders, but she also wanted to take in our violent neighbor next door out of pity. Everyone is good, they're not as bad as you think, and he also promised not to hit people anymore. Later, I was locked up by the resentful supermasculine man, while he and my best friend lived in my house, consuming the supplies I had prepared. Meanwhile, I was left starving and freezing in the bitter cold until I eventually froze to death. When I opened my eyes again, I thought I had reached heaven, but instead I found myself back 1 year earlier, just before the apocalypse was about to begin. Honey, please let me go. I know I was wrong. Darling, won't you let me go? The neighbors outside are watching. Around 8 p.m., the female neighbor next door was dragged by her hair and thrown outside by her husband just because she worked overtime and came home late, failing to cook for him on time. Neighbors who heard the commotion cracked their doors open slightly to watch. However, due to the man's hyper-masculine personality, anyone who interfered with his affairs would inevitably face his vindictive nature. As a result, no one dared to intervene, silently watching from the sidelines. Yet there was always an exception. My best friend, recently unemployed, she was temporarily staying at my place. Seeing a girl being harmed, she stood up without hesitation. At that moment, my thoughts snapped back. Just like in my past life, it was this very act of hers that made the hyper-masculine male neighbor hold a lasting grudge against me. 1. Before I could react, Marina had already rushed forward, helping Esme, who had fallen to the ground, to her feet. Then, with hands on hips, she knocked on the door while muttering incessantly, "What kind of man hits his own wife? What kind of man hits his own wife? Have you no shame? Don't you know domestic violence is illegal? I'm calling the police on you right now." As Marina's voice grew louder, the neighbors also heard what she was saying. The same scenario played out in the previous life. After rushing out, Marina positioned herself as the righteous enforcer, standing on the moral high ground and forcibly pressuring me to call the police. However, after the police were called, Esme, who had suffered domestic violence from Phoenix, told the officers that we were just playing around, fearing Phoenix's resentment. With those words, I, the one who called the police, became the center of controversy and naturally became Phoenix's primary target of resentment. Upon hearing about the police call, Phoenix could no longer sit still and immediately opened the door. He directly kicked Esme in the stomach. "How dare you call the police? You've got some nerve." Esme turned pale from the pain, clutching her stomach and curling up, unable to speak. Phoenix then grabbed Esme by the hair and dragged her back into the room. The neighbors watching from outside wanted to help stop it, but were all held back. No one stepped forward to intervene, nor did anyone call the police, so the incident simply went unnoticed. By the time Marina saw me, I was already lying on the sofa, leisurely scrolling through my phone with a face mask on. Seeing me so relaxed and indifferent to others, Marina seemed convinced that I was a cold-hearted person. With a dark expression, he directly threw the phone onto the sofa. "Do you know what just happened? And you're still here scrolling through your phone." Oh, I know. It's just that the violent guy next door is beating his wife again." Completely unfazed, I picked up my phone and continued scrolling. Gotta scroll more now. Once the apocalypse comes, there won't be any phones left to scroll. "Do you even have a heart?" Marina said with a dark expression. "Do you know how badly Esme was beaten just now? And here you are scrolling through your phone. I must have misjudged you. Clea, I never thought you could be such a cold and heartless person." After saying this, Marina immediately locked herself in her room. At this moment, I couldn't help but feel puzzled. What's there to be so proud about? You're still living in my house. If you care about them so much, why don't you buy a house yourself and live together? After a while, Marina left the room, while I remained lying on the sofa, leisurely scrolling through my phone. Marina seemed to have calmed down a bit, coming straight over to the sofa and sitting down. Then she questioned me, "Why didn't you call the police just now? If you had called the police earlier, you could have saved Sister Esme from her misery." Hearing her say this, my eyes were filled with confusion. "Don't you have your phone with you too, when trying to mediate a fight? Wasn't that a phone you were holding in your hand? Wouldn't it be faster if you made the call yourself?" Marina seemed to laugh in frustration. "No way. If I call the police, what if Phoenix holds a grudge against me later?" I couldn't help but snort coldly in my heart, so she knew herself that Phoenix wasn't someone to be trifled with. Yet she had said to me in our past life, The most important thing in living this life is to have no regrets. If you do regret, there will be no way to make up for it later. We're all women here. Are you just going to stand by and watch Sister Esme suffer domestic violence? It was only after her constant moral high ground PUA tactics in her past life that I inexplicably called the police. In the end, Phoenix held a grudge against me while she got off scot-free. Thinking of this, I suddenly felt a surge of anger. I mimicked the words Marina from my past life said to me. How could you do this? You actually didn't report it to the police just because you were afraid of Phoenix's retaliation. 2. Letting Sister Esme step back into his hell again. You're being so selfish. Upon hearing my words, Marina could no longer maintain her composure. She stood up abruptly, slammed her phone on the table, and pointed at me. What nonsense are you spouting? It's not that I didn't want to call the police. Yes. It was Sister Esme who didn't want me to call the police. The persona she's always crafted for herself is that of a beautiful and kind-hearted person who would never sit idly by when faced with trouble. What she hates most is others exposing her true nature and calling her selfish. I took a deep breath, doing my best to conceal the hatred in my eyes. In my past life, I paid the price with my life. Even if I didn't see her true colors before, I understand now, hearing me say these things. She could no longer control her temper and went straight back to her room, slamming the door hard on her way in. The temperature has been dropping continuously since a few days ago. It's also been raining non-stop. The weather forecast says that the sudden temperature drop is caused by the arrival of cold air. However, the reality is that the temperature will continue to drop, and it will slowly start snowing in a few days. It will get colder and colder later on, until the true extreme cold apocalypse arrives. Yet it was at this very moment that my best friend Marina lost her job. With nowhere to go after losing her job, she temporarily stayed at my place. In our previous life, when the apocalypse came, she insisted on saving the hyper-masculine male neighbor next door, yet because he held a grudge against me, I was locked outside the door during that time. Although I kept asking Marina for help, but she said, "Clea, these things are what you deserve. If you had been a little kinder, none of this would have happened." At the thought of this, overwhelming hatred rushed to my head. But not now. There are many ways to take revenge. I can't lose the greater for the lesser. Marina remained angry, probably provoked by my words, and didn't come out to eat even by evening. I couldn't be bothered to care about her, and even the meal I made was only enough for myself. In my past life, I always considered her my best friend. Even when she stayed at my place for extended periods, I never complained. Every time I cooked, if she hadn't returned, I would specifically wait to prepare food for her. This time I didn't pay her any attention and just scrolled through my phone while eating, simultaneously checking for nearby rental properties. I never expected such good luck. I found a house for rent in the nearby villa area that actually comes with a basement, which made me ecstatic beyond words. When the extreme cold apocalypse arrives, the basement will naturally function as a refrigerator, eliminating any worry about food spoilage while providing ample storage space. Seeing this, I couldn't contain my excitement. The location is also very convenient. I immediately messaged the agent. Upon learning of my interest, they even started preparing the contract overnight. According to the agent, because this house has a basement, the rent is more expensive than regular villas, and the feng shui is also unfavorable. Hearing this, I thought to myself, forget about feng shui or not, nothing is more important than life. The next morning, I immediately scheduled an appointment with the agent and went straight to visit the house. After seeing it, I couldn't have been more satisfied. The windows and doors of the house had all undergone special modifications. No matter how severe the attacks from outside are, they won't easily break through. Moreover, the entire villa is fully protected, ensuring that even if it's freezing outside, the temperature inside the house can maintain a comfortable environment. There's even an underground parking garage, which gives me more space to store things. After seeing off the agent, I immediately called my parents. My parents live in a small mountain village in the south, due to poor transportation. Every time I go home, I have to take a high-speed train, transfer to a bus, sometimes even find a tricycle, and then walk several kilometers before finally reaching home. I called them and, based on my past life experience, described the events that would happen in the coming days, urging them to quickly stock up on supplies, to ensure they heard me clearly and wouldn't forget. I also sent them a message, carefully listing the specific clothes and food they needed to prepare. After completing all this, I checked my phone. June 28th, if I remember correctly, in just 2 days, on July 1st, that terrifying, extreme cold apocalypse would arrive. The arrival of the apocalypse wiped out half the population in just one night. Fortunately, it's Sunday today, and tomorrow is a workday with fewer people around. Even if I stockpile a lot of supplies, it's unlikely to be easily noticed. With just 2 days left, I need to hurry with preparations. Because on the evening 2 days from now, temperatures will suddenly plummet to around -40 degrees Celsius, then continue dropping slowly. No one knows how low it will ultimately go, nor how long this terrifying cold spell will last. The entire society will be forced to shut down. By then, money will become mere paper. Only food will hold real value as hard currency. Glancing at my bank balance, I see there's still 200,000 yuan left, combined with various loan apps. I should be able to gather around 350,000 yuan. Water, food, daily necessities, energy. The first priority is to secure water, as it is the source of life. I first bought 20 10-liter buckets of water online, along with dozens of cases of bottled water. I even purchased various beverages and milk to prepare for any unexpected situations. I also rushed to the nearest supermarket and bought out all the water and drinks available in the store. As I left the supermarket, snow began to fall from the sky. People on the streets were puzzled but also filled with joy, as snow in June is a rare occurrence. Only I knew that I had to hurry. The extreme cold apocalypse was coming soon. Next came all kinds of food, instant noodles, self-heating hot pots, and self-heating rice. These convenience foods become extremely precious resources in the apocalypse. I packed up everything from nearby supermarkets and convenience stores. The store clerk was curious about why I was preparing so many things. Our family is opening a store, so I'm stocking up on inventory. Hearing this, the clerk let go of their doubts and gave me a phone number, saying it was their supplier's contact. Ordering from here would be more cost-effective. Hearing this, my eyes lit up with excitement. I quickly thanked her and put away the phone, reminding her as I left, I heard there's going to be a big temperature drop in a few days. Do you want to prepare some food for yourself? It's already snowing today. The clerk nodded hurriedly upon hearing what I said. I've already reminded her. The rest is up to her. As someone who's helping her, I don't mind telling her that the apocalypse is coming and advising her to prepare more supplies, but I can't be too direct, or I might end up being sent to a mental hospital. The weather is getting colder, and news reports on phones show that foreign cities are already being covered by heavy snow, but soon after, this news was deleted, probably to avoid causing public panic. It seems time is getting increasingly tight. Realizing this, I couldn't help but speed up my stockpiling. Items like bread, chocolate, spam, compressed biscuits, and beef jerky, foods that can be stored long-term and provide substantial energy, became my top choices. I also prepared plenty of fruits and vegetables, and even some meat. After all, once the extreme cold apocalypse arrives, my basement will naturally turn into a natural freezer, and a deep freeze one at that. Finally, there were all sorts of daily necessities and medicines. I scoured most of the pharmacies and supermarkets in the city before finally gathering all the food and supplies on my list. There's also the energy issue. I directly purchased several generators and the fuel needed for them, with so many items, to avoid arousing suspicion. I had rented a large truck the day before. I loaded everything into the truck's cargo compartment. From the outside, nothing seemed amiss. After a whole day, my legs were trembling uncontrollably, but I didn't dare rest, constantly checking for omissions and fearing I might have missed some detail. The next day arrived. Considering the issue of cooking, which requires fuel, I went out and purchased a portable gas stove along with matching canisters of gas, and even prepared alcohol blocks. Thinking it might not be secure enough, I even went to a lumber mill to collect their discarded wood scraps. As a backup, I can also make a fire if needed. The remaining items include 5 flashlights, 50 power banks, 10 sets of super-insulated cold-resistant clothing, and even professional water filtration equipment. If necessary, I can also melt snow for water. I even prepared self-defense tools and weapons. Upon arriving here, my material preparations were just barely completed. In the afternoon, while Marina was out job hunting, I sneaked back home and quickly moved all the laundry and clothes from the bedroom to my newly rented villa. After finishing all this, I collapsed exhausted on the sofa. It's been exhausting. These past 2 days have been non-stop, but I can't rest yet. Time is urgent as temperatures will start plummeting tonight. Knowing that water and power outages would begin soon, I forced my weary body to immediately start stockpiling water. Shortly after I finished stockpiling water, I fell asleep. During that time, Marina returned home to find the place completely empty. Even the sofa had been taken away by me. Marina initially thought it was a burglary and anxiously called me. However, I kept making excuses about being too busy with work and needing to stay at the company, avoiding going home. By the next day, the roads outside had begun to be gradually covered by snow, and the temperature started to plummet. The neighborhood chat group was also constantly complaining about the situation. Why is the weather so cold? Does anyone have extra blankets to sell? I'll pay 200. I'll buy 2. I offer 500. 3. Suddenly I received a phone call from Marina. I answered the phone, and she sounded anxious. Clea, how much money do you have? Can you lend me some urgently? I need it right now. What do you need the money for? Of course it's to buy things. Don't ask so many questions. I have my reasons. You'll thank me later. It was only when I heard these words that I sensed something was wrong. Could it be that yesterday's sudden temperature drop had given her a rebirth through freezing? Clea, hurry up. There's no time left. In a while, the temperature will get colder and colder, and the snow will fall heavier and heavier. Marina must be truly anxious, as she's even starting to reveal some information. It seems just as I suspected, Marina has also been reborn. Originally, I was still contemplating whether to spare her, because all those things were done by her past self. The current her hasn't committed those wrongs. Now that she's back and reborn, I won't hold back anymore. The temperature dropped rapidly, so much so that within just a few hours, the temperature on the phone needed to be updated again. The Meteorological Bureau also issued a low temperature warning, advising residents to stay indoors as much as possible and avoid unnecessary outings. Marina urgently asked me to transfer money to her and revealed everything about the extreme cold apocalypse. See, Clea, everything I said is true. The extreme cold apocalypse is really coming. Hurry up and give me the money. Any later and we won't be able to buy anything. What? How could that be? What apocalypse? Stop joking around. Have you been reading too many novels? I pretended to know nothing. Don't worry. Although I don't have money in my account right now, once the company settles the payment for this project, I'll have money then and will definitely lend it to you. I put on a considerate act, but Marina on the other end of the phone was practically furious. After all, she didn't have any money on hand. Even when she used to get her paycheck, she would immediately go out partying at nightclubs and never saved a dime. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had to move in with me after losing her job. Fine, Clea, I really misjudged you. I never thought you were this kind of person. Hearing this, I couldn't help but think, I never expected you to be this kind of person either. You won't even lend me a few $1,000s. I must have been blind to have a friend like you. Then Marina hung up the phone with a bang. The temperature dropped faster and faster, and by afternoon it had already reached -45 degrees. Even through the window, you could see the icy wind carrying snow outside. Faced with the arrival of such extreme weather, the authorities also issued a notice requiring companies and schools to enforce mandatory holidays. As everyone was rushing home, I spotted a petite and familiar figure. It was Marina, out gathering supplies. But supplies aren't that easy to collect. Back in my previous life, I braved the cold to search for resources, only to find they'd already been bought up by a local tycoon. In my past life, desperate for food and water, I had no choice but to drive to remote supermarkets to buy provisions. Though I succeeded, prices had skyrocketed several times over normal rates. Meanwhile, Marina just waited in my room for me to bring her supplies, for, gradually, people began noticing the supermarket's unusual state, and some even reported it in the neighborhood chat group. Initially, the property management tried their best to reassure everyone, saying the supermarket would restock soon, using this reason to prevent unrest. Then came the first night of the apocalypse, and the power supply was cut off. The residential community's group chat instantly exploded with 99+ messages, mostly residents venting their frustration and demanding answers from the property management, who remained read but unresponsive. Some people also sent dozens of messages in a row, asking where they could buy food and water. Glancing at this familiar profile picture, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. It seems Marina has already discovered the supermarket was emptied. I began to wonder about her next move. Would she brave the freezing temperatures to buy supplies at a distant supermarket, just like I did in my past life? Well, it appears I've underestimated Marina's shamelessness. She's far more brazen than I imagined. Received a call from Marina. Clea, look, I don't have any food here. I've been starving for a long time and couldn't find any place to buy food. Clea, you have a car. Could you go to a farther supermarket to check if there's any food? It would be best if you could buy a lot of things and bring them over. Too lazy to waste time with her, I simply said okay. Marina was extremely excited, so much so that she immediately sent me several 60-second voice messages filled with nothing but words of gratitude. It was a complete contrast to the person who threatened to cut ties if I didn't lend her money earlier that morning. I fell into deep thought. Since Marina had been reborn, she naturally knew that the extreme cold apocalypse wouldn't disappear anytime soon. If she had been willing to go to a more remote supermarket earlier, it wouldn't have been impossible to buy enough supplies. But the one thing she absolutely shouldn't have done was to place her hope for survival in others' hands. Affected by the temperature, more and more people suffered frostbite and colds. Some risked going out to buy medicine, only to have their cars skid on the icy roads shortly after departure, causing chain reaction collisions and rear-end accidents. This scene thoroughly frightened the residents in the apartment building. Instantly, far fewer people ventured outside, likely because everyone still believed this extreme cold spell would pass quickly. At -50 degrees, the phone screen froze, stuck displaying this temperature. A resident in the apartment building exclaimed, Is this damned ordeal finally coming to an end? However, someone immediately came along to pour cold water on the hope. That person took a photo of their home thermometer. It turns out the temperature wasn't failing to drop, but had already reached its limit. The actual temperature continues to plummet relentlessly. Instantly, cold and despair flooded everyone's hearts, of course, except for me. I'd long made thorough preparations, while other homes were plunged into darkness from power outages. Only my house remained filled with light and warmth. As temperatures kept dropping, the property management sent a notice offering to pay 5 times the original price for supplies, pooling resources for centralized distribution. Upon seeing this message, everyone started complaining that there was absolutely no food left at home, and some elderly people even passed away directly due to the sudden temperature drop. However, some households still had stockpiles, and soon, the property management office gathered quite a bit of food, all contributed by residents of the apartment building, but having lived through this before, I naturally knew this was just a scam. After collecting the supplies, the property management would first register them under the pretense of documentation. And later, when temperatures returned to normal, they could use the IOUs to claim money. In my previous life, I also fell for their lies and handed over part of my supplies. It was at this moment that everyone learned my household had stockpiles. However, after handing over the supplies, we waited for a long time, but the property management never distributed them. By the time everyone realized what was happening, the property management had already divided all the supplies equally and fled. When we arrived, it was already deserted, but in the line of people handing over supplies, I spotted a familiar figure. It was Marina. Surprisingly, she was with Phoenix and Esme's family, which made me quite puzzled. Soon, I discovered her true intention. She had her eyes on the supplies everyone had handed over. Nightfall came quickly, and Marina and the others began to take action. Under the pretense of delivering supplies, they tricked the property manager into opening the door. Upon seeing the room packed with food, Phoenix's eyes lit up with greed. The property manager, after opening the door, noticed the trio wasn't carrying any supplies but instead held hammers and wrenches. Instinctively, they tried to shut the door, but before they could react, Phoenix swung the hammer, knocking the property manager unconscious. Though the manager weakly murmured something, Phoenix and the others paid no heed. Their focus was solely on the room's stockpile of food. Marina glanced at the fallen property manager and, deciding to go all the way, brought the wrench down without hesitation. Under the cover of darkness, the three stealthily moved all the food from the property room to their own rooms. As they left, Phoenix glanced at the unconscious property manager and instructed Marina to bring the body back as well, just in case. That night, it was clear Marina wasn't satisfied with the supplies taken from the property manager and started coming after me. Clea, have you found any supplies? I'm so hungry, I haven't eaten all day. 5. Seeing the message he sent, I felt nothing but contempt in my heart. Just got so much food from the property management, yet still unsatisfied and now eyeing mine. I casually took photos of the supplies around me, along with the dinner I made, and sent them all to him. Supplies found. Seriously, Clea, you already found the supplies. Why didn't you hurry back? I'm practically starving. And you had me worried sick all day. I thought something had happened to you. Faced with her insincere concern, I couldn't help but let out a cold snort. I might not be able to come back for a while. Hearing me say this, Marina's tone instantly changed. Becoming anxious, I quickly explained to her, the boss said the weather is too cold, the roads are frozen, and none of the employees can make it in, so he asked me to help out for a few days. Plus, I can eat whatever I want from the supermarket. Besides, there's snow on the roads now. It wouldn't be safe for me to go back. Marina couldn't hold back her temper when she heard me say that. It turned out the reason she was with Phoenix's family was because Marina had promised to give half of the supplies I found to Phoenix's household after my return. Just as I was about to reply, I saw someone in the group chat mention me. It was Phoenix. At Clea, you filthy bitch. Bring the supplies back immediately or I won't be responsible for what happens to you. Upon seeing this message, I didn't reply but instead turned and sent a message to Marina. Help, someone is threatening me. I don't dare go back. I'll stay here for now. Marina was absolutely furious, practically ready to throw the wrench in her hand at Phoenix. In the extreme cold of the apocalypse, the supplies obtained from the property management would only last a few days, and they had to be shared with Phoenix and the others, leaving me with only a small portion. A few days passed. During these days, although Marina would still occasionally call me, I managed to brush her off with various excuses. By now, they should have nearly exhausted their supplies. Meanwhile, the ordinary residents were still waiting for the property management to distribute the promised supplies, but as the property management disappeared, everyone's morale gradually collapsed. Some tried contacting them in the group chat, only to find no response. So they found a few strong young men to go to the property management, but when they arrived at the property office, they discovered it was already deserted. As for me, I remained in the villa, eating my steak and sipping the chilled beverage I had prepared. Seeing that I still hadn't returned, Marina began to grow anxious. Clea, when are you coming back? Phoenix won't do anything to you. Hurry back, I'm starving to death. I asked curiously. Really? Phoenix won't lay a hand on me anymore, really? Of course, I don't believe a single word Marina says. As for Phoenix, in my previous life, it was Phoenix who locked me out of the house. Phoenix saw that Marina couldn't get me to come back, and since he couldn't get the supplies Marina promised him, he flew into a rage. He started blaming Marina. Esme, who had been on the sidelines, had long been displeased with Marina for constantly making eyes at her husband. Normally, she didn't have a chance to act, but seizing this opportunity, Esme joined in the scolding. I kept fanning the flames over the phone, saying, Marina, didn't you say Phoenix was an abusive man? You must stay away from him. Wait until I get back. I tried my best to sound innocent. However, upon hearing this, Phoenix snatched the phone from Marina's hand and shouted at me, You damn bitch. If you still want to come back, hurry up and return the supplies, or you'll regret it. Phoenix's angry voice came through the phone. The extreme cold will pass eventually. You'd better pray you don't run into me, or I'll definitely sell you out. Fine, the extreme cold will surely pass, but whether you can survive it is another matter. After all, I've got food and drinks here, I reminded him patiently. The other end fell silent immediately, and I hung up the phone directly. I could already imagine the other side seething with helpless rage. A few more days passed, and I finally got through to my family. I began asking about my parents' recent situation. From my parents, I learned that because the village is located in the mountains, it happened to block some of the cold air. Although it was still chilly, it was much better than where we were. My parents listened to me at the time and prepared water and food in advance. At least during this period, they didn't encounter any accidents at home. After some time, the electricity suddenly started to be restored. Everyone was overjoyed. But it didn't last long. Only 2 hours of power supply were available each day. Thanks to these 2 hours of electricity, life became at least a little less difficult for everyone. Soon, someone discovered the truth about the property management's disappearance while checking the surveillance footage. And this video was posted in the homeowners group chat. The residents in the community watched the video and discovered that the true culprits behind everything were actually Marina and Phoenix's family, especially when they saw the end, where Phoenix and his family returned to their room with supplies. The already mentally strained residents could no longer suppress their rage. They kicked open Phoenix's door and found Phoenix and Marina feasting on meat, unable to hold back any longer. They started throwing punches at each other. Despite Phoenix's fighting skills, he was outnumbered and quickly overpowered. After what felt like an eternity, Phoenix finally breathed his last. Meanwhile, Marina suffered an even worse fate. She was dragged into a room by several men and subjected to inhumane torture. Just as everyone was wondering where Phoenix's wife Esme had gone, someone shouted from inside the kitchen, only to discover Esme's corpse. It turned out their food had long run out. Phoenix had hooked up with Marina again, and when Esme caught them in the act, to fill their stomachs and ensure a better life together, they committed this heinous act, opening the fridge. They also found the property manager's head stored inside, perhaps kept as a memento. Watching all this unfold in the owners' group chat, I felt secret delight. Justice had been served. Another month passed, and gradually people came to my door begging for food. I sold it to them at prices several times higher than market value. It's not that I suddenly became kind-hearted, but the temperature has been gradually warming up. It's expected that in just a few months, the temperature will return to its original normal level. Although officials have recently started distributing some supplies, there's still more demand than supply. Plus, since I'm in an affluent area, no matter how many times I multiply the price, there are always people willing to buy. After a month, there were far fewer survivors in the vicinity. Many had died from the cold or illnesses that didn't receive timely treatment. Several more months passed, and various departments gradually returned to normal operations. The temperature also stabilized back to normal levels. Authorities issued an announcement stating that all unlawful actions committed during the apocalyptic period would be punished, to ensure public livelihood and prevent hoarding. The authorities implemented a purchase restriction policy on supplies. I seized the opportunity to sell all my stockpiled goods. The funds in my account multiplied hundreds of times in an instant, and with tens of millions in hand, I returned to my hometown. Clea, finally back. Returning to my hometown, I saw my parents still there, living happily, and a smile appeared on my face. I'm back. Story 2. A zombie outbreak occurred, and I stocked up a whole dormitory with supplies. My roommate who is obsessed with men, insisted on sending all the supplies to the male dormitory next door. I didn't want to, so she publicly announced in the male dormitory group that our dormitory had supplies and exposed me. I really want to share these supplies with the guys, but Arya thinks you are all bad people and doesn't want to take out the supplies. These words led me to be thrown into a group of zombies by robbers who broke in at night and bitten to death alive. All the supplies I had painstakingly stocked up were generously distributed by my roommate to the murderers. My roommate, with her saintly aura, was adored by the men, while I was regarded as a malicious and selfish person, and even after my death, I was still reviled by others. Reborn in this life, I will definitely make my man-obsessed roommate pay the price. 1. Don't mind Arya, if she were as kind as our Nora. How could she end up like this? Pfft, she deserves it. Who told her not to share the supplies with me? How can a woman keep these supplies? It's good girls like Nora who know how to share that deserve our love and admiration. Nora, who was surrounded and adored by everyone, looked at me, who was mangled by dozens of zombies, and said with a pitiful expression, "I'm sorry, Arya, in order for everyone to survive, I had no choice but to do this, ending up like this. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for not being as kind as me." Even in the apocalypse, people who are not kind won't be able to live until the end. The intense hatred engulfed my consciousness like lava. The next second, I suddenly woke up from my desk. I was actually reborn. I gasped for breath in the familiar sound of the lecture, still feeling scared. The excitement of surviving made beads of sweat roll down from my forehead. In my previous life, the end of the world came, and zombies ran amok, due to my internship. I didn't plan to leave the school during the summer vacation, so I stocked up a whole dormitory with snacks and instant food during the shopping festival. Unexpectedly, these things became the lifesavers for my roommate Nora and me in the apocalypse. I originally wanted to rely on these supplies to survive with my roommate Nora until the zombies were subdued and the country provided rescue. However, despite my dissuasion, Nora took photos of all the supplies I had stocked up and sent them to the male dormitory group next door. She also generously said that she could share them with the guys. Guys, are you short of food? I still have a lot of food here, if you need it. My roommate can use a drone to send it to you. I refused Nora's unreasonable request on the grounds of safety. Unexpectedly, she directly sent our dormitory room number to the group and also identified me in the group as the one who didn't want to contribute the supplies. I really want to share the supplies with the guys, but Arya thinks you are all bad people and doesn't want to take out the supplies. But please don't blame her, maybe she has a strong sense of vigilance. That night, a group of angry boys broke into the dormitory, beat me half to death, and threw me into the group of zombies. The cloudy white and blue eyes, the mottled face of flesh and skin were getting closer and closer, and countless stinky mouths bit into my flesh. The pain in my memory made me shiver. In my previous life, Nora used my supplies to win people's hearts. Under the name of kindness, she stepped on my corpse and lived a good life with that group of men. In this life, I want to see if Nora can still survive in this troubled world with her so-called kindness without any capital. 2. You stinky men are not allowed to compete with me for my girlfriend. Nora rushed out from the corner of the lecture hall and pushed away the boy who had just tried to chat me up. Arya baby, you smell so good. I like girls the most. They are fragrant and soft, much better than stinky men. In my previous life, I was deceived by Nora's sweet words. Reborn, without the filter of her being my best friend, I can finally see clearly who she really is. Although Nora says she loves women, her actions are completely the opposite. When she surfs the internet, she would mourn for the so-called male love warriors every night, but she would scold the female victims who were secretly photographed for being indecent. Loving women is just a pretext, and loving men is her true intention. Just like now, under the pretext of protecting me, she is actually having a great time with the boys around her. Nora clenched her small fists and gently punched a boy. Dylan, you stinky man, don't look at my girlfriend's boobs. Only I can look at Arya's good figure. I'm wearing a slightly form-fitting outfit today, but normal people wouldn't pay special attention to it. However, because of Nora's shout, the boys around started looking at me with malicious eyes. I snorted coldly and pushed Nora, who was clinging to me, away. It's just boobs. What do you mean by thunder? You are making a loud noise in public and deliberately mentioning my body parts. This makes me very uncomfortable. Do you want to embarrass me? Or are you deliberately saying this to these men, using a same-sexist figure to please them and establish an image of loving women? By the way, the bright smile on Nora's face disappeared. She froze for a moment and evaded my sharp gaze guiltily. Arya, I just wanted to compliment you. How could I possibly try to please stinky men? The boys around also chimed in. Yeah, aren't you being too sensitive? You're starting to be a feminist now. Feminists are so narrow-minded. She even scolds such a lovely girl like Nora. It's really too much, Nora said anxiously. Arya must be not feeling well. That's why she's being so nitpicky. Please don't blame her. It's all my fault. It's definitely not that Arya has a bad temper. Seeing the pitiful-looking Nora making concessions continuously because of me, the villain, the boys around became even more indignant. What kind of person is she? She's so grumpy. She's not even worth a single hair of Nora, the little angel. She's such a tomboy, she'll definitely never get married, I sneered silently. When the apocalypse comes, maybe these people can really rely on such stupid thoughts to make the zombies unable to bite their Qing Dynasty zombie brains. I put on my backpack and turned to leave. I can't waste time arguing with fools. There are only 7 hours left until zombies appear on campus. No. Finding a secure shelter and stocking up on supplies are the most important things. 3. The facilities in the ordinary dormitories of the school are very old, especially the wooden doors. Any adult man can kick them a few times and they will fall apart. Coincidentally, I don't want to share a room with Nora anymore either, but the school is located in the suburbs, and it's definitely too late to rush to the city to rent a place now. Grimacing, I directly rented a dormitory that is not often lived in from an international student who is participating in an event outside the city at a high price. The international student dormitory is not only located in a place with few people and quiet environment, but also, in order to take care of international students, although the facilities are not top-notch, they are much better than those in ordinary dormitories. Just take this thick anti-theft door for example. It's simply a must-have for survival in the apocalypse. Moreover, the International Student Dormitory building not only has an elevator, which is convenient for transporting supplies up and down, but also the dormitories are single rooms, so there is absolutely no risk of information leakage. The dormitory is equipped with various electrical appliances to facilitate the life of international students. There is a refrigerator, a kettle, and a separate bathroom water heater, all of which are available. After looking at the room, I immediately determined this as my shelter for the apocalypse. After quickly paying 2 weeks' rent, I called a campus errand service and bought 30 boxes of instant noodles, 20 boxes of compressed biscuits, 40 barrels of drinking water, and various emergency products and had them directly delivered to the dormitory building, adhering to the principle of getting something for free if possible. I directly borrowed a high-powered telescope, several baseball bats, and ropes from the school equipment room. I also asked a senior from the School of Medicine to buy some Chinese and Western medicinal materials that could be used at a low price from the medical institution where she worked part-time. I also managed to get 50,000 yuan from various lending platforms with my meager credit limit as a college student. With this 50,000 yuan, I directly rented a car with a wave of my hand. While waiting for the car, I dialed the number of my home. The moment I heard my mother's voice again, I finally felt that I was truly alive. Under the high pressure, I couldn't help but cry. Arya, why are you crying? Have you been wronged at school? I didn't have time to explain. I quickly told her everything I knew. Mom, please believe me, a zombie outbreak is about to happen. You and Dad should go stock up on supplies now. No matter what happens outside in 7 hours, don't open the door. Although my mother was a bit puzzled, out of trust in me, she readily agreed. Only then did I feel relieved. After getting in the car, I paid the driver extra to step on the gas pedal to the floor and drove all the way to the city. I first bought a solar battery to solve the electricity problem, and then bought an alcohol stove. Although during the apocalypse, dry food and compressed biscuits will definitely be the main food, I still need to treat myself occasionally. So I not only bought all kinds of my favorite fruits and vegetables, and beans, but also bought 10 live chickens and ducks each, 10 marinated chickens and ducks, 10 caddies of various frozen seafood, and dozens of caddies of cured meat and ham that can be stored for a long time. I also bought various vegetable and fruit seeds so that I can eat fresh fruits and vegetables at any time to supplement vitamins. In the afternoon, I bought some self-defense weapons such as military shovels and spiked clubs from a martial arts coach I knew before. I transported the things from the elevator to the room, then closed the thick anti-theft door of the international student dormitory. Without stopping, I ran to the express delivery point to pick up all kinds of snacks and instant food that I bought during the shopping festival. When I went to pick up the express delivery with a small cart, I deliberately took in photos of the express parcels piled up like a hill at the express station, set them to be visible to the few people who came to rob room 3062 in my previous life, and posted a 9-grid photo on my WeChat moments. I picked up the express delivery for my roommate Nora. There are so many delicious things. Nora, the snack tycoon, soon. There were all kinds of sour comments under this moment's post. Eric, women are really good at spending money recklessly. Are you the so-called materialistic woman everyone is talking about? Dylan, you women are so wasteful, buying so much. Won't you exhaust your future husband to death when you get married? I sneered and replied to each comment, emphasizing, these were all bought by Nora during the shopping festival. I'm just helping her pick them up. In my previous life, didn't Nora like to treat my supplies as her own? This time, I'll grant her wish. In everyone's eyes, these supplies belong to her now. Whether she has the life to keep them or not is none of my business. After making sure that this group of robbers had all received this news, I dragged the small cart and walked towards Building A of Jinglan Yuan, the female dormitory building. When I returned to the old dormitory room 3062, I opened all the express parcels and stuffed all the food and the clothes that could be used into 2 large suitcases and an extra large moving bag, while Nora wasn't back. I also tied the camera I just bought to the cabinet in the old dormitory. When I stepped out of Building A again, I was fully armed. I wrapped myself from head to toe with a mask, sunglasses, and a sun-protective coat, for fear that someone would recognize me. Under the big sun, I ran until I was sweating all over. Finally, I managed to get back to the international student dormitory just in time before the zombie outbreak, since there was still some time left. I followed a video and taught myself how to assemble a solar panel, then I hung thick blackout curtains on the windows. After arranging the supplies neatly according to their categories and shelf lives, I straightened my sore back and looked at the full supply of food in the dormitory. Only then did I completely relax. As long as there are no accidents, I can just stay in the dormitory like a hamster. While there was still hot water, I took a careful bath, washing away all my fatigue and dust. Habitually, I turned on my phone, the message I anonymously posted in the school's large group in the afternoon, which said that a deadly infectious virus was spreading and everyone should stock up on supplies and go out less, was not believed by anyone at all. Instead, it attracted a lot of ridicule and sarcasm. We are all college students, and you're still being childish. Spreading false information is crazy. If you have anxiety disorder, go see a doctor. Don't act crazy in the group. Who is this person? The group owner should kick him out. I originally sent this message to have a clear conscience. Now that no one believes it, I will respect other people's fates. So I simply put down my phone and looked out the window at the gray sky. A dull thunderclap accompanied by lightning that tore through the gray sky set off the wailing on campus, through the telescope. The teaching building where the zombies first appeared in my previous life was already in chaos. Students and teachers were scrambling to run out. Some people jumped directly into the lake and swam quickly to the other side, thus narrowly escaping, but more people lost their lives to the zombies. I drew the curtains to block the bloody scene. Before I could completely calm down, the phone beside me suddenly rang. Nora, hello, Arya, where are you? I'm so worried about you. Can you still get back to the dormitory? I perfunctorily replied, I'm fine, I'm in the school library. She pretended to be anxiously concerned about me for a few words, but soon revealed her true intention. Arya, I remember you bought a lot of snacks during the shopping festival. Where did you put them? Don't worry, I won't take them all for myself. I will find a way to save you back. I laughed. It's better to believe that I am Wu Zetian than to believe that Nora will come to save me. They are probably at the express delivery point. I haven't picked them up yet. Nora, what? Didn't you put them in the cabinet? Hearing Nora's flustered voice coming from the phone, I raised my eyebrows. As if I had discovered something remarkable, I turned on the monitoring screen of room 3062. After hanging up the phone, Nora obviously didn't believe what I said. In the monitor, she rummaged through the cabinets with a fierce expression but found nothing. She looked at the cabinet in disbelief and said, obviously, in the previous life, she hid her supplies in the cabinet. What's going on? Very good. I curved my lips. It turned out that Nora was also reborn. Compared with taking revenge on her who hadn't done anything yet, taking revenge on a villain with memories is much more satisfying. 5. On the third day of the apocalypse, it was already in chaos outside. Wherever the telescope could reach, there were zombies dragging their rotten flesh and showing their white bones, pouncing and biting the fleeing students everywhere. There were also quite a few slow-moving zombies wandering around Yukinjiwan, which is a place with few people and is relatively remote. The various hot topics on major platforms of the mobile phone were all replaced by the word zombie. Douyin was even filled with videos about zombies and zombie tides. With the experience of the previous life, I didn't react too much to the fact that humanity had completely fallen. But the dormitory group of Jinglan Yuan was already in an uproar. It's so terrifying. This is much faster than the zombie outbreaks in movies. In less than half a day, the whole school has fallen. Damn it, I woke up and it's the end of the world. Fortunately, I skipped class and was sleeping in the dormitory when the zombie outbreak happened. Otherwise, I would definitely be dead. I'm on the first floor of Building A in Jinglan Yuan. Almost all the dormitories on this floor have been broken into by zombies. I hid in the utility room to survive. Someone come and save me. No one in the group responded. Everyone was now worried about their own safety, and no one had the spare energy to save others. In the previous life, Jinglan Yuan was a horrible scene. Zombies constantly wandered in the corridors of the lower floors. Once a louder sound was made, the zombies would break down the door and enter. Fortunately, I promptly reinforced the doors and windows with the wooden boards removed from the table, and Nora and I managed to escape. In this life, Nora imitated me and barely nailed the old dormitory windows shut. However, relying on her memories of the previous life, she just waited to snatch my stock supplies and was so stupid that she didn't stock up on any supplies at all. She had been hungry for 2 days and now she could only hide under the covers, shivering and sending private voice messages to men. Can you bring me some supplies? I've eaten all my food. Woohoo! I'm so scared. Brother Dylan, Brother Eric. Brother Sheenbai, is she listing dishes? I sneered. It turned out that all these good brothers were just fish in her pond. Compared with the indignation of those boys in the previous life, they were obviously much colder in this life. They just offered some perfunctory words of comfort and then there was nothing more. After all, the halo of a saint without supplies is like a pile of loose sand, without even the need for the wind to blow. It will fall apart after taking a few steps. Seeing that no one paid attention to her, Nora looked dejected and pursed her lips. Without my supplies as a temptation, that group of profit-seeking people certainly wouldn't support her like they did in the previous life. But I still underestimated Nora. Under her show of weakness, there were actually 2 loyal simps who didn't care about their own safety and were willing to send supplies to Nora's dormitory using a drone. However, I don't want to let Nora get what she wants so easily. Looking at Nora in the monitoring screen who seemed to have fainted from hunger, I casually opened the group chat of the male dormitory in Building A and sent a message that was sure to cause an uproar. 6. I used the secondary account I had applied for in advance to guide the public opinion in the male dormitory group. Guys, I received a private message from Nora asking for supplies, but I seem to remember that she bought a lot of things during the shopping festival. Could she be trying to deceive us into giving her supplies by taking advantage of our kindness? Immediately, some of Nora's loyal simps jumped out to oppose. Knight of Princess Nora. Nora is so innocent. How could she deceive us? Stop trying to muddy the waters. Gun and Rose on standby for Nora. That's right, Nora is kind and innocent. She must be extremely hungry to send out a distress signal. If you don't want to help her, that's fine, but you're still slandering Nora. Who do you think you are? Dylan suddenly popped up. Shut up first. I remember now. Nora's roommate pulled a cart full of food from the express station that day. There must be supplies in Nora's dormitory. Afraid that everyone wouldn't believe him, Dylan quickly sent a screenshot of my WeChat Moments post, which I had already deleted, to the group. Guys, we've really been deceived by that bitch Nora. I seized the opportunity. Nora is trying to hoard goods and drive up prices. Now that she has received the goods, when we're almost starving to death, she will definitely ask us to buy from her at a high price. Isn't she taking advantage of the kindness of our classmates? Many people immediately echoed and agreed. That's right. What do you mean? Come out and explain. You have supplies but still ask us to send supplies to you. You have ulterior motives. Nora, if you have the guts to deceive us for food, have the guts to speak up. I was so blind to think you were kind. Damn it, you stinky bitch. Nora. I stared at the continuous stream of abusive words in the group and laughed coldly, although it's ironic. This is indeed the best reward for Nora's long-standing habit of being obsessed with men. I just hope she can firmly receive this blessing. 7. This group of people not only started scolding Nora, but also some busybodies directly added my main account to the group, and they kept it ing me, asking me to come out and identify Nora. I hummed a song while picking vegetables and cutting meat, not in a hurry to speak at all. The best time for me to step in is when the public opinion in the group has fermented to its peak. Even if the group is in an uproar, I have to focus on filling my stomach first. I took out the alcohol stove, added scallions, ginger, and garlic according to the cooking method of my hometown and stir-fried the hot pot base until it was cooked. After adding water, I could boil a pot of bubbling red soup that perfectly replicated the taste of the hot pot in my hometown. After preparing the hot pot base, I threw in the pre-processed cured meat, smoked meat, sausage, beef balls, a quarter of a pig's knuckle, a whole bunch of greens and mushrooms, and my favorite duck blood to cook together. While I recorded a video of the pot with my phone, the duck blood, which was the easiest to cook, was also ready. I happily took a bite of the tender and smooth duck blood dipped in Aria's special dipping sauce and took a sip of the cola just taken out of the refrigerator. It's just one word, awesome. The pig's knuckle with thick subcutaneous fat was soft, springy, spicy, and refreshing. With a poke of the chopsticks, it broke apart, and the rich collagen melted in my mouth. I also specifically added a lot of fresh and smooth greens and mushrooms to relieve the greasiness. This hot pot was simply amazing. After having a full meal and feeling satisfied, I slowly ate some fruits and sent the hot pot video I just took to the male dormitory group. I was having hot pot with Nora just now and was too busy to reply. As the old saying goes, people don't worry about having little but about uneven distribution. This is especially true in the apocalypse. The people in the group were short of supplies. When they saw others happily having hot pot in the dormitory and thought about their own bleak situation, the contrast must have made them feel more painful than death. Sure enough, as soon as this sentence was sent, it was like water splashing into hot oil, causing a huge commotion. What did I say? They're having hot pot in their dormitory, and there are still some idiots sending supplies to Nora. Why should we eat bread and swallow vegetables while these two women monopolize so many supplies? UNEMP. In the monitoring screen, Nora was finally woken up by the continuously vibrating phone. She looked at the group chat of the male dormitory, and her face instantly turned from white to green. She immediately explained in the group, "No, it's not like that. I really don't have any supplies, and I'm the only one in the dormitory. You have to believe me. Secondary account. It would be crazy to believe you. It's bad enough that you have supplies but don't want to share them with us, and you even asked the guys to send supplies to you. You clearly want to take advantage of our kindness to seize the supplies." Night of Princess Nora. Damn it, I was really blind. I didn't realize that you, Nora, are such a heartless woman who only cares about herself and doesn't care about other people's lives. Gun and Rose on standby for Nora. If you divide the supplies equally among everyone now, we'll forgive you for the time being. Otherwise, you just wait for it. Nora's face showed signs of collapse, and she sent voice messages incoherently. I swear I didn't hide any supplies. If I have any selfish motives, I'll die a horrible death. And I'm really the only one in the dormitory. Arya is lying. It's her who has the supplies. She must have taken all the supplies to another place. I slowly curled up the corners of my mouth. The fish had taken the bait. 8. This was the most powerful moment to refute Nora. I immediately sent several pictures of room 3062 piled high with supplies to the group. There were stacks of large boxes of instant noodles in different flavors, various types of canned goods, and dozens of boxes of self-heating mini hot pots on the floor of room 3062. In addition to the instant food, all kinds of high-calorie snacks not only filled the cabinets, but the extra ones were all piled on the table where Nora had pasted a lot of her own photos. As you can see, the table in the photo is exactly the same as the one in Nora's selfie. It's clear who is lying. I had deliberately transported the supplies to the old dormitory to take these photos, just for the moment to identify Nora. There are no supermarkets or canteens around Yuan. If someone wants to stock up on supplies, it's too risky to go too far, so the first targets are the dormitories in the male and female dormitory buildings of Yuan that have supplies. This is also the reason why I tried my best to prevent Nora from revealing that our dormitory had stocked supplies in the previous life, but she still chose to expose it and establish an image of a saint by stepping on my corpse. In this life, I just want to use her own means against her. I used my main account to imitate Nora's tone and sent a voice message in the group. Nora does have supplies. I originally wanted to send some to everyone using a drone, but Nora didn't want to share with our classmates, and I couldn't persuade her. Nora became anxious. Don't listen to her nonsense. Everyone, I can turn on the video to prove it. I really didn't hide any supplies. You have to believe me. But the people in the group had completely lost trust in her. Before she could turn on the camera for the video, she was kicked out of the group chat by the angry administrator. I ignored the repeated abuse of Nora in the group and casually switched to the monitoring screen of room 3062. In the monitoring screen, Nora drank up the last drop of instant noodle soup and even rummaged through the trash can, but she couldn't find a single grain of food. Seeing that her attempt to ask the brothers in the male dormitory for supplies had failed and she was so hungry that her front and back were sticking together, she turned her target to the female dormitory, usually at school. Nora was busy shuttling among the boys like a colorful butterfly. On the surface, she called the girls she knew honey, but behind their backs, she either criticized their looks or called them green tea. I don't know how many girls in Building A had been gossiped about by her. No, Nora was sobbing and sending a distress signal in the female dormitory group. I'm Nora from room 3062. I'm about to starve to death. Can anyone spare me some supplies? Only girls can help girls at this critical moment. I know girls are the kindest. Please save me. After a long time, Nora received a private message. I can exchange supplies with you. I zoomed in on the monitoring screen. It was a message sent by Victoria, the top student in her major who lived next door. Usually, Nora thought it was impossible for a girl to be the top student and had even questioned her to her face. But at this moment, Victoria still chose to respond. Her weak voice also came through the monitoring. I have stocked up on some bread here, but I just got my period and I don't have any sanitary napkins. Do you have any sanitary napkins? Nora stared at the 7 or 8 packs of sanitary napkins and overnight pads on the table. Her eyes turned twice as if she had thought of something, and then she whispered and complained, "Selfish person. She has to exchange something for a little food from me." She grabbed the sanitary napkins and overnight pads and threw them into the cabinet, and then sent a voice message pretending to be concerned. "Are you okay, Victoria? I'm really to blame. I don't have any sanitary napkins here either." Although Victoria was disappointed, she still threw 3 packs of bread and a bottle of water to Nora from the balcony. Nora thanked her profusely. But then she turned around and sent photos of the sanitary napkins to different boys. "Does brother need sanitary napkins to cushion his feet? I can endure my period, but it's too hot. Brother will feel much more comfortable using sanitary napkins to absorb sweat." But a red exclamation mark indicating being blocked popped up in front of each message. Nora's idiotic remarks made me roll my eyes, while I was so angry with her that I almost had a heart attack. I also felt that Victoria didn't deserve this. Her practical help didn't make Nora feel grateful at all. Instead, she only thought of using sanitary napkins, which are essential for girls' survival, as foot pads for men who don't have uteri. Whether in the previous life or this life, Nora's halo of a saint only shines on men. She has thoroughly implemented her misogyny and obsession with men. However, there is one thing Nora said that is actually right. It is indeed getting hotter and hotter. The temperature has even exceeded 43 degrees today. As soon as I open the curtains, I can feel the intense scorching of the ultraviolet rays. The zombies are also becoming more and more agile, completely different from their slow-moving appearance when the temperature was low before. I closed the doors and windows to prevent the hot air from flowing in. The dormitories in the school don't have air conditioners, so I had to take out the previously prepared saltpeter powder, find 2 buckets of different sizes, fill them with tap water, and use the saltpeter to make ice cubes the size of a watermelon. By blowing a fan towards the ice cubes, I could cool down the whole room during the most difficult times. 9. I was enjoying the coolness in the sweltering heat and was about to fall asleep when the alarm sound of the monitoring suddenly rang. I instantly woke up. There was only one reason for this monitoring to sound the alarm, which was that something had broken into the room. At this time, the ones breaking into room 3062 were either zombies or robbers. I immediately opened the monitoring on my phone. In the screen, a group of people broke into room 3062 under the cover of night. There were 7 or 8 people in this group, with Dylan leading the way, and the rest were also boys who usually bossed around at school. I counted. There were actually 2 more people coming this time compared to those who broke into room 3062 in the previous life. I rubbed my eyes and zoomed in on the monitoring screen. Weren't these the 2 simps who had turned from fans to haters of Nora in the group just now? Knight of Princess Nora and Gun and Rose on standby for Nora. These 2 people barged in aggressively with fierce eyes, which was completely different from their usual appearance of flattering Nora. They rummaged through the dormitory but didn't find even a single grain of rice. Dylan, who is in the lead, slapped Nora hard. "Where did you hide the supplies?" Nora covered her swollen cheek, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. "Brother Dylan, how could I hide anything from you? This is all that bitch Aria's scheme." Dylan gave her a fierce glare. "You're so disgusting, saying one thing to our faces and doing another behind our backs. Stinky bitch, if you take out the supplies now, I can still spare your life, otherwise, you'll be our food." He dragged Nora to the window and threw half of her body outside. Seeing a living person, the zombies downstairs howled with excitement. When Nora was pulled back up, she was shaking all over and rubbing her hands in a panic. "Brother Dylan, I really don't have any, but Victoria in room 3061 has supplies. She sent me bread a few days ago. You go and rob her. Go." I felt a chill all over my body when I saw this. The wickedness of human nature was completely revealed in Nora, this ungrateful person. I could see that Dylan and his gang had shifted their target, but I definitely couldn't let them hurt the innocent right under my nose. I gritted my teeth and remotely pressed the alarm function of the monitoring camera. A huge siren immediately sounded in room 3062. The zombies wandering downstairs were instantly attracted and swarmed up to the 3rd floor. Soon, the dilapidated door of room 3062 was broken open by the zombies again. In the deafening noise, Nora also found the source of the sound. She stared at the camera with a ferocious expression, as if she wanted to tear me apart through the screen. The last scene that came through before the surveillance camera was damaged was the image of more than a dozen zombies with twisted limbs swarming into room 3062. The siren suddenly stopped, and the whole floor was deathly silent. Only the zombies that had lost their targets were wandering aimlessly. I frowned and maneuvered the drone smeared with pig's blood to fly up to the 3rd floor. Hovering above the ceiling of room 3062 for a long time, there were several dead bodies of men on the ground. But there was no sign of Nora. After making a round of inspection, I didn't linger any longer. I directly used the drone to lure the dozen or so zombies on the 3rd floor out of the female dormitory building, hoping to buy more chances of survival for the people still in the dormitory. 10. After Nora disappeared, I continued to stay in the room, watching the variety shows I had downloaded in advance. The ice made from saltpeter every day was enough to cool me down. Outside, The sun was scorching hot, and the temperature of nearly 50 degrees Celsius seemed to be able to crack the cement ground. However, I was leaning against the ice cubes, blowing the fan, and drinking cold drinks. It was really comfortable. Just as I went to check the growth of the bean sprouts placed on the windowsill, a pair of greenish eyes met mine through the gap in the curtains. Zombies. Have they evolved to the point of being able to climb walls and roofs? I instantly felt cold all over. Sat down on the ground, held my breath, and stared fixedly at that gap. The ragged flesh I had imagined didn't appear. Instead, a fluffy paw and pinkish meat pads were frantically scratching at the window. Meow. In order to prevent the cat's meowing from attracting the attention of others, I put on protective gloves before opening the window and grabbed the kitten by the neck to lift it in. To prevent this little thing from mutating after being infected, I temporarily locked it in the bathroom to observe its condition. After one night passed, this thin and lean tabby cat showed no signs of abnormality. Looking at its pitiful appearance, I couldn't help but feed it some chicken. Feeling the soft fur in my palm, I softened my heart and took it in, naming it Lemon. After all, in the apocalypse, I could only stay in this small dormitory. Having a little cat by my side could also help adjust my mood. 11. On the 10th day of the apocalypse. The school lost power completely, but I had food in my hands, so I wasn't worried. I stared at the surveillance outside the door while drinking the delicious cream of mushroom soup with a rich milky flavor. From time to time, I picked out a shrimp and fed it to Lemon to reward it for its hard work in patrolling the territory at night. At first, I planned to keep this fluffy little guy just to relieve boredom, but Lemon, with its genes as a rural tabby cat, was very conscious. It not only wouldn't meow randomly, but it would also bite me awake when there was a noise at night. After having a full meal, I slumped in the chair and took a nap. Lemon also lay contentedly on my stomach, and its tail flicked back and forth, hitting the armrest. Just as I was dreaming, my stomach suddenly ached, as if I had been kicked by something. I opened my eyes and found that Lemon was arching its back towards the door. All the fur on its body was standing on end, and it was staring ahead with a look of alertness. There's something outside the door. I turned on the surveillance. In the surveillance footage, there were two people discussing something in front of the door, a man and a woman. The man had a broad back and a thick waist, and he was also a bald head, and I would recognize the woman's back even if it turned to ashes. It was Nora. She was actually still alive. I put on the earphones and turned up the volume of the surveillance, and the whispered conspiracy outside the door was clearly heard in my ears. Nora's face was ferocious, and she gritted her teeth and said, "Gavin, I checked in the school surveillance before, and that drone flew out from this dormitory area. That bitch Arya must be here." The bald man glanced at my door. "Is it this room?" Nora immediately changed her expression, and she weakly and flatteringly took Gavin's arm. "This is the room. Before the apocalypse, that bitch Arya stole all my supplies and pushed me, a weak woman, out to feed the zombies. Brother, you won't refuse to avenge me, right? What's more, she took away supplies that are enough to last for several years. If brother can get my supplies back, we won't have to hide anymore." Upon hearing this, Gavin was indeed tempted. The two of them locked the security door in the corridor and prepared to break in at night. Gavin stepped forward and kicked the door. Ukinjiwin was not like the old dormitory area. It wasn't a wooden door that could be kicked open with one kick. Instead, it was equipped with a high-security anti-theft door. After this kick, the door didn't move at all. Instead, the person who kicked the door cried out in pain. I sat on the chair with my legs crossed, stroking the cat with one hand and eating melon seeds with the other, watching them from trying to break the door to using tools to pry and smash the door. After half a day's effort, the anti-theft door didn't budge, but the two people outside were exhausted. 12. Seeing that breaking in by force didn't work, Nora and Gavin changed their strategy. There was a loud knock on the door outside, and Nora shouted for help. I couldn't pretend to be dead anymore because of the noise. "Nora, have you shouted enough?" Nora, with her hair in disarray, slapped the door, crying with snot and tears, and pretending to be ignorant. She said, "Arya, it's you. You're still alive. Arya, save me. I know you're the kindest. Arya, I'm your good sister. You surely can't bear to see me die." There was hatred brewing in her eyes, and she coaxed, "As long as you let me in, I can forgive you. I can let go of the things you framed me for. You forgive me." I couldn't help laughing out loud. This is the biggest joke I've ever heard in my life. Nora couldn't control her emotions for a moment. "Arya, you're laughing at me. If it weren't for your framing, would I have ended up in this situation? Do you know how much I've sacrificed to survive?" But she quickly calmed down and started moral kidnapping. "Arya, I'm a girl. Girls should help girls, right? I know you're the kindest and the softest-hearted," I sneered. "Girls should help girls, but I won't show mercy to those who side with the evildoers." But I quickly pretended to be reluctant and said, "Well, for the sake of our past relationship, I can give you a chance. Then I pretended to be in a dilemma and said, but the food stored here can only support one more person. You decide for yourselves who will leave and who will stay. Doesn't Nora love to be a saint the most? I want to see if she will sacrifice herself for others in the situation where she has to make a sacrifice. Nora knelt on the ground, and hesitation flashed across her face. Arya, do you really want to watch me die? Gavin is also a living person? Can you be a little kinder? Let both of us in. If you don't want him to die, why don't you give up your chance to live? I spat out the melon seed shell and smiled, throwing back the words she said in the previous life. Even in the apocalypse, people who are not kind will definitely not be able to survive. You will surely make the kindest decision, right? Nora's face changed immediately, her lips trembled, and she froze in place. How is it possible? You also. No wonder you transferred the supplies in advance. Gavin pushed Nora away in disgust and affably leaned towards the peephole to flatter me. He took the opportunity to show off his muscles in front of the door. Arya, look at me. I have a body full of muscles. I'm definitely much better than this skinny bitch. Let me in. Only when we, a man and a woman, complement each other can we live a happy life. I frowned in disgust when I heard these words, but seeing Nora's desperate face, who was stabbed in the back by the man again, I felt a sense of relief. The best way to take revenge is to shatter the other person's beliefs. Nora always said that men are inherently stronger than women, that men are more trustworthy than women, that men are easier to get along with than women, and even that men are kinder than women. In this life, under my arrangement, she has suffered the betrayal of the men she loves the most one after another. I wonder how she feels about it. In the surveillance, Nora stared at Gavin blankly, with determination and madness brewing in her eyes. Gavin was startled by her blood-red eyes, but he quickly reacted and swung his arm to slap Nora. Arya, since you won't open the door for her, this bitch must have done something to let you down. I'll teach her a good lesson right away. As he said that, he spat on his hands twice, clenched his fist, and punched directly at Nora. But before the fist landed, Gavin's body swayed, and with a thud, he fell to the ground. Nora pulled out the fruit knife from Gavin's body. She seemed to be relieved and crazy at the same time, crying and laughing as she pounced on the anti-theft door and pounded it hard. Open the door, Arya. I'm the only one left outside now. I admit I was wrong. What the hell is kindness? I really know I was wrong. I will never believe in men again. We can get through the apocalypse together just like you said in the previous life. I picked out a suitable military shovel from a pile of weapons and sneered coldly. Selling out her roommate is not kindness at all. Nora really has the nerve to put on a grand show and praise herself, I said. Look at the blood on your hands. You just killed a person for your own chance to live. You're essentially a selfish viper, so vicious that I don't even want to open the door for you. What should I do? After hearing these words, Nora's eyes became fierce. She suppressed her violence and hatred and said softly, I had no choice. If I hadn't taken action, he would have killed me. I just want to live. Arya, you will understand me, right? I sneered in my heart. So Nora also knows that living is more important than being kind. But in the previous life, when she let the wolf into the house and caused my tragic death and accused me haughtily, why didn't she think of this, at this moment? As I was staring at the surveillance, I suddenly noticed that the hand of the corpse behind Nora twitched. I zoomed in on the screen and found that when Nora turned her back to the corpse would stare at her with malicious eyes. I raised my eyebrows, and a bold idea came to my mind. Is that so? Well, since I'm soft-hearted, come in. The moment I opened the door, Nora suddenly showed a fierce look in her eyes and swung the knife at my face. At the critical moment, Lemon jumped up and hit Nora's stomach. Making her stumble, I successfully dodged the blade, picked up the military shovel with my left hand, and struck Nora hard on the head, knocking her to the ground and making her unable to get up. Seeing this, Gavin, who wasn't completely dead not far away, staggered to his feet. I quickly retreated into the room and watched the fight from the sidelines. Human civilization hasn't collapsed yet. I don't want to dirty my hands for someone like Nora. Letting them kill each other is the best outcome. Gavin, clutching his knife wound, staggered up to Nora and stopped. He stepped on Nora's face and cursed while spitting out blood foam. Damn it, you thought I would die so easily. I held on to my last breath just to kill you. You backstabbing bitch. You skinny bitch. How dare you try to kill me? Nora wriggled and struggled under Gavin's feet, stretching out her bloody hand towards the door and shouting hoarsely, Arya, save me, but I'm not a saint. And I don't want to waste my energy on my enemy. I just watched coldly as half of her body was turned over the iron railing by Gavin and hung in the air, calculating how to deal with this bald guy later. Nora's trembling hand holding the pole was pried off the railing by Gavin one finger at a time. Seeing that she was about to be thrown down, she stared at the bald man viciously. Son of a bitch, even if I die, I'll take you. You beast, down with me. Nora held onto Gavin tightly and jumped downstairs on purpose. Gavin, who was already seriously injured and unsteady on his feet, was pulled down by Nora with all her might. The force of gravity made both of them fall off the building. I quickly opened the door and looked down from the stairwell. Nora was pinned to the ground by Gavin's body, lying in a pool of blood, with her eyes staring fixedly at the roof. Looking at Nora's tragic death, I felt a little sad, but not much. After all, she died at the hands of the men she loved the most. The smell of blood attracted the zombies that had been hungry and thirsty for a long time. Soon, the sound of flesh being gnawed on rang out in the silent Yakinjuan. Nora's body was eaten by the zombies, which can be considered as avenging my death without a whole body in the previous life. 13. ZZZ. All survivors, please go to the shelter in the south of the city. There, the official will provide the highest level of protection. For nearly half a month, the human shelter in the south of the city has been sending signals to the survivors. After Nora died, I stayed in the dormitory with Lemon for half a year. The hot weather at the beginning of the zombie outbreak was gone forever, replaced by extremely cold weather. It was snowing heavily outside the window, and the temperature dropped from over 40 degrees Celsius to minus 20 degrees Celsius overnight. I would look for signs of living people through the telescope every day, but I found nothing. The campus was desolate, and even the zombies moved slowly due to the low temperature. One day, I even saw a zombie downstairs fall headfirst into the thick snow because its joints were stiff. Now, the danger from zombies has been greatly reduced. If I go out, it's time to set off for the human shelter. If I stay here any longer, I'll either starve to death when the supplies run out or freeze to death due to the continuously dropping temperature. I put on 3 of the thickest down jackets, threw all the lightweight and durable compressed biscuits and meat cans into my bag. I put on the modified kitten down jacket for Lemon, picked up the military shovel, and set off for the south of the city with high spirits. 14. The campus was so quiet that only the sound of snowflakes falling could be heard. I was actually reborn. It seems that only you will accompany me to the shelter. When I turned around dejectedly and was about to leave, countless red laser pointers shone in front of me, lighting up a path to the underground garage for me. There are still people alive. Realizing this, I couldn't help but burst into tears. At the exit of the underground garage, there were more than a dozen people standing, almost all of them young people, and among them was my classmate Victoria. I threw myself into her arms, my nose was sour, and I burst into tears. Victoria took me to the temporary shelter they had set up in the underground garage, made me a cup of warm milk tea, and said with a smile, "We saw you wandering around in the snow and thought you were a crazy zombie." I smiled through my tears while holding a certain brand of milk tea. "Then you still dared to show me the way. Aren't you afraid that I'm really a zombie?" Victoria held Lemon in her arms and couldn't put it down, saying, "You should thank your master. If it weren't for the fact that only humans would be so crazy about petting a cat, we really wouldn't have recognized you. Definitely, this little guy is my lucky star." I smiled and stroked Lemon's tail that was swinging back and forth. I really didn't expect that a little bit of my kindness at that time could bring such a great return. If I were to go to the shelter in the southwest alone, if I encountered some crazy people on the way, the risk factor would be too high. But now it's different. Thanks to Lemon, I can travel together with more than a dozen classmates. We drove several cars with full tanks of gas from the underground garage. Although we met some people with ulterior motives on the way, they were intimidated and driven away by our motorcade at the very beginning. After 4 days of trekking, we finally found the shelter in the south of the city. The moment the iron wire gate opened, the north wind blew the snowflakes onto my face as I wept with joy, and they were instantly melted by the burning tears. We were really saved.